I already hit record. We're good there. All right, here we go. Oh, do you want to retry hosting? No. Okay.
Not at all.
You did such a good job, though. It's too bad only I could hear it.
I know. Well, it's a one-time deal, and you wasted it.
I fucked it up.
Bakayoko, oh yeah, Samina mina, Edward Mende, Samina mina, Sam Sadakte. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving.
The flag stays down.
Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Matt, this is our first episode of the off season. I know I fucked it up last week. I apologize. Matt hosted. It was great. We had a lot of good discussion, some good arguments, but no one will ever get to hear it. So, Matt, my public apologies to you on your hosting debut.
Yeah, my hosting debut and finale at that. One time only. But no, it was fun to do it. But yeah, that darn record issue. Yeah, I was there. You and I were going at it for probably a good 2 hours. So those have been those will be locked away forever in the vault.
And no Parker tonight for our listener, for our regular listeners. You guys know that he'd recently purchased a house, so he's got the computer all packed up. So probably no Parker for a couple weeks here. So Matt, no funny intros for you or I, anything like that. But how you doing this weekend?
Good. Had some family in town. Getting some stuff ready for little man's first day of daycare. My paternity leave is over as of tomorrow, so back at work tomorrow. But yeah, we're doing well. Can't complain too much. Collins, how are things with you?
Good. Last night went to go see my second club, Forward Madison, with Aiden. It was an early Father's Day present from him. So saw them beat the league leaders, North Carolina FC 3-0 at home, which was pretty great. Got some good swag, and it's been good. So now I'm living it up. We're not on Twitch, but living it up in the in-laws mansion for the next couple weeks. So living that good life.
That a boy.
All right. Well, Matt, I figure we talked a little bit in pre-pod, but I figure a good idea to just kind of go over what we're going to be doing today. And that is going to be keep, sell, loan. I know other pods have done it already. We're kind of late to the game, but hey, that's what happens when you forget to press record. So Matt, we'll go through.
Hold on, Collins, to be fair, we have done keep, sell, loan before on this pod. I believe it was our first season, and we did it on Pod After Dark. We did it GTH style, gun to head. So just rapid fire questions and looking at players. But so just want to be clear, we have done this before.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out to London is Blue podcast. They were the originals on this idea. We'll modify it. KSL GTH, keep, sell, loan, gun to head.
Perfect.
Now I know that's not going to stop us from bitching at each other, but here we go. So the rules are simple. I'll list a player, and then we'll decide keep, sell, loan. If we disagree, or if there's a case to be made on some player, we will go ahead and discuss that. So let me bring up the roster here. Let's go numerically. How about that? We'll start right away. Actually, let's just start with the keepers in general. We'll bounce around here. So we'll start with this year's number one, Kepa Arrizabalaga. Matt, keep sell alone.
He's tough for me. For me, I think you have to keep him.
I agree. I think keep him for A, the experience, and B, he's a great penalty stopper. So he's a great cup keeper. So go out and get that number one. Let Kepa be the number two. Let Slonina learn as number three. Spoiler alert. All right. Second keeper of the night is former UEFA keeper of the year, Edward Mendy.
Thanks for all your work. You're gone.
100%. So I don't think that needs much explanation. All right.
Mendy's, so real quick, Mendy's an interesting one because we only got him for what, like 25 mil. I think we could easily recoup that and probably get more just based on kind of his namesake alone and his like good year and a half that he had. We might actually make out a little bit ahead on that, especially with the kind of money being thrown around now with players and things like that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I agree. I think we at least break even or use him as a part of a swap. All right. So next is our third keeper, Marcus Bettinelli. Matt, I know he is your player of the season, so keep sell loan. Yeah, I think you have to. They just renewed his contract. What, like a month or two ago?
Yep.
Good experience. Premier League, he's a guy who's been around the Premier League for a little bit, so good experience on the bench there. And then finally, our youngest keeper on the roster, Gaga Slonina. Matt, keep sell loan.
Loan. I don't want to, but I think for his development, a loan is going to be the best thing for him.
No, we've talked about on this pod before how keepers are best in their late 20s, early 30s, maybe even mid 30s, right? Slonina is what, 19?
Yeah.
Just represented the US in the U20 World Cup, did fantastic there, but he needs to build up that knowledge base. So I agree, he needs a loan. Matt, what do you think the ideal destination, either league, team, country, what's best for him?
Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to him going down to the championship. I don't think that would be a bad option. I don't really want him in like a second rate or a second tier top division, like the Turkish league or something like that. I don't think he'll get game time, but I don't think he's gonna get that much like experience as far as going up against some top players. If he does go to like a lower Spanish side, but I have a hard time with Spain trying to take on a US player. I don't see it. Germany could be a possibility, but again, I think it's going to be a lower level Bundesliga team that would take him on. But I was thinking MLS, but the seasons don't match up the way that they should. So yeah, I would look for him to be part of a championship squad next year.
Yeah, I don't think MLS is the option. He's already conquered MLS. He was the league leader in clean sheets in his last season with the Fire as a teenager. He's fine. He doesn't need MLS. I think I agree. I think the proven method of going to the championship and then maybe another loan to a Premier League club, that kind of system would be nice. But I wouldn't object to, a team towards the bottom of Liga 1 or, kind of a mid-table Portuguese team or a Dutch team. Something where he's getting first division action, even if it's a shitty team, I think builds up that experience for him. All right. So let's see. Keepers, we kept Kepa. We tossed Edward Mendy. Bettinelli's staying. Slonina going out on loan. Is there anybody you go get on the market to shore up that position?
I don't know. For me, the whole idea around a goalkeeper right now is very questionable. Obviously we spent a lot of money for Kepa, and although I thought he had a good season this year, he's still not worth what we paid for him. And then you look at somebody like Mendy, who initially were like, wait, who? And then he ends up being, UEFA Keeper of the Year and, helping win the Champions League and stuff like that. So it's very hit or miss. I know a name that's been floated around a lot is Onana. Again, wouldn't be bad.
Wouldn't be bad. Get out of here. You
So
thrived at Ajax, looked fantastic against City, led the Champions League in clean sheets this year. Come on, man.
okay, then so if that's the name I've been seeing, I have the same kind of skepticism with keepers that I do with forwards. It's essentially the same thing. You're gonna have to pay an arm and a leg for a good one that may or may not pan out. So I don't want to get burned by that again. So I'm a little leery on it.
The number I've seen on Onana is 50 mil. You figure Inter probably wants Rom again at a discounted rate because they have no money. Maybe throw him in the deal. You get him for a little less. I think that's a double whammy, instant impact.
Yeah, I like that proposal. I mean, I would be all for it. Obviously, it's been well noted our thoughts on Rom. So I think that would make a lot of sense if we would be able to do that.
All right, well, let's turn to the defenders here. Quite a few, and I feel like we're going to be sending quite a few out the door here. But again, going numerically here, we'll start with our boy Benoit Badiashile. Keep, sell, loan.
Keep. I think you have to.
Keep, and the only reason I could possibly see something else would be loan, because he's going to be coming back from surgery.
Right.
Get him somewhere where he's getting, maybe a 6-month loan, get him consistent playing time somewhere. But keep should be option number one.
Yep.
All right. Next up, vice captain, Thiago Silva. Keep, sell, loan.
Keep them.
Absolutely. This, we don't even need to discuss this one next. All right, let's go next down the line here is one that we probably do need to discuss. That's Trev Chalobah. Matt, what are your thoughts on Trev?
I think you have to keep him strictly for the fact that if we're looking at some of these other players, when we get to them, may or may not be out the door, or you're going to need options, right? Either as a center back or, as we've seen this season, late this season with Reese out, he can play that right back position if need to. Is he great at it? He's serviceable. If Dave is done, then who's your other right back? Because RLC may or may not be back. We don't know. I think you have to keep Trev.
See, I would go sell on Trev. I think he absolutely has the qualities for the Premier League. I think he's going to have a long Premier League career, but I think it's going to be almost like this guy isn't a defender, but Dominic Solanke, right? where he's got the tools, but I don't think he's Chelsea level. And Trev is still young, absolutely. But he's now under his 5th different manager. Still can't seem to find a way into the starting 11. I think you're gonna have Benoit ideally back in September. You're gonna have Fofana. Spoiler alert on all of this, but you're gonna have some good center backs coming back. And I think we found with Badiashile that you can get a good center back for relatively cheap. So I think you could easily upgrade on Trev. And if we're looking to be within financial fair play, it's straight profit selling him as an academy grab. I don't think he's up to Chelsea's level, but maybe you give him another year or two. I just think you lose some market value on him at that point.
That's fair.
All right. Next on the list, we get to our wingbacks here. Benny Chills. Keep. But there were the rumors of City swooping in. You get a $50-60 million offer. Does that make you hesitate at all?
No, not a single bit. For 2 reasons. A, I don't want him going to City. B, I don't want Cucurella starting. So who else do you put back there? Yes, you have Lewis Hall, legend. But
you got Ian Maatson coming off of a very, very, very solid loan at Burnley.
Yeah, I Chills is my number 1. I'm not letting him go.
All right, next up, Reece James.
Keep.
Real Madrid comes in with a $80 million offer.
Who's going to replace him if Trev is going out the door and RLC? And Dave is gone. You have literally 0 right backs.
Is Reece James the one player on this team who is untouchable? Absolutely 100% locked down, untouchable.
Well, I mean, a couple people you could throw in there. But I think as far as people who have been here longer than a season, yes, Reece is that person.
Yeah, I would say Reece is the one guy in this club out of anyone on the roster, outside of maybe Malo Gusto, who hasn't even joined the club yet, right? Or Andre Santos, any of these players who haven't technically joined the club yet. I think Reece James is the one player who's untouchable on this roster. Everyone else I would listen to for the right offer. Speaking of which, Khalidou Koulibaly is next up. Keep, sell, loan.
Depends on what version of him I'm getting. He's too hit and miss for me. I know he played well at the end of the season. He had that rough patch in the middle of the season. He started off pretty well. I think as an experienced center back, he's not cutting it for me. I would say sell.
See, I'd say keep. He had quite a few interviews in spring, talking about how he has struggled to adjust, but he feel like he's finding his footing off the pitch in London. Finally, it took him a while to adjust to the culture, the city, the league. And we got to remember, again, he's captain of the Senegalese national team. He captained Napoli. Like he has experience. He has leadership experience. And we're a club that has no leaders. So I think if Koulibaly, now has a full off season, a normal off season to continue to build relationships within the club, I think he becomes somebody who can turn it around in season number 2. I'll give him a write-off in season number 1 as absolutely it's an adjustment. So I would say keep and see how the season goes. Maybe could be a January
with an option to sell.
Yeah, exactly. Could be a January sale, but keep in hopes of he has adjusted. So next is a guy who does not need an adjustment. Cesar Azpilicueta, we call him Dave, but Matt, do you keep, sell, or loan?
His contract's up, isn't it? I'm pretty sure this was his last season at Chelsea. At least that's
it was something weird with the option. This wasn't like, I don't think this was the option year.
I thought it was. I'm not sure. That's why I thought this was like his last game. Because I thought he was going back to Spain somewhere.
All right. Well, do you renew or let go?
I don't know. I think you sell. Or renew.
I think it's up to Dave. He's been here for over a decade. He's the club captain. I think if you were to ask him, you know, not necessarily, you know, hey, Dave, are you ready to hang it up, or, you know, something like that. But if you were to ask him, hey, Dave, you're not going to get a lot of playing time here at Chelsea, you know, do you want to stick around? I think he would say yes. I think he knows the position that he's in as a player. But again, we're a club with no leaders, and so we need some. So I would let Dave stick around as long as he can, and then let him be kind of that backup, you know, center back, right back, wherever needed kind of guy who plays, you know, maybe 1 out of every 3 games.
Yeah, and the only reason why I'm kind of leaning towards sell is because, you know, we saw all the rumors over the last year and change of, I think there were interviews where it's like, I would like to go back and play in Spain. Like, he's been here for a long time. So that's why I think at the later stage of his career, he, like we see with a lot of players, they want to go back to like their original teams and stuff like that. So I think that's why I'm kind of looking a little bit towards loan, but I would be definitely happy to have him stay on for all the reasons that you pointed out.
All right, well, let's turn to his Spanish compatriot here, a man that Matt, I kind of know what you're going to say already, but Mark Cucurella.
Who?
Mike Jones.
Yeah, Mark who? Correa. Can you sell him and get any money back for him? Yeah, like, I don't know. I think you have to hang on to him just because you don't really have, again, like another replacement. So I think there are a lot of things that have to work in his favor so that he can see the field again. But I would make the argument that he's now 3rd on the depth chart behind Lewis Hall. The other thing, the only positive is you can kind of slot him in at center back. Like, some of his best games, he was playing center back and not even left back, which is his natural position. I don't know. Everything is telling me sell, but depends on everybody that we get rid of, right? It depends on what happens during the transfer window. So I would say, I think you have to keep him, give him another year with the club, and then go from there.
Yeah, I think Cucurella, not necessarily, you know, like a culture shock, or, you know, he'd already played in the league. I think it's the adjustment going to a big club. He's never in his career played for a big club. And I think a lot of people also forget, because of the facial hair and because of the hair, he's a young guy too. He's 23 years old. I think there's a lot of upside in Mark Cucurella, and at worst, I think you have a backup left back, which is, that's for Chelsea, that's a pretty good floor.
Yeah.
So I would give him another adjustment year, or, you know, write this off as an adjustment year, and see how he does in the following season. But I agree. I don't think he's number 2 on the depth chart anymore. I already mentioned Ian Maatson, and we'll get to him in just a minute here. Had a fantastic loan at Burnley. Burnley want him for over 20 million pounds. He's very highly rated, and he looks to be Premier League ready. So I think that's a position battle going into this year, is who is your backup left back. And so I'd like to see how Cucurella responds to that. Well, turning to a guy who also has Premier League experience. Did not have the greatest of seasons, but it's more injury related. Wes Fofana. Matt, keep, sell, or loan?
Keep.
100%. I think he looked good in the matches he was in. I think you saw a little bit of fatigue towards the end of the season. I think a lot of that was injury related, but absolutely, I think the sky's the limit on Wes. So keep. All right, so getting to some of our loanees here. There's just two that I want to discuss with. Actually, a couple I want to discuss with you. Ian Maatson, already mentioned, from Burnley, has been out on loan the last couple of years. Capped for the Dutch national team this year. Keep, sell, loan?
Keep.
Absolutely keep. Competition. Baba Rahman?
Sell.
Absolutely. Agreed. A couple more defenders here. Ethan Ampadu, actually in service today for Spezia, conceded a goal and scored a goal. So Ethan Ampadu, keep, sell, loan?
The next John Terry. I think another loan. He has played in the Premier League for us, and he didn't do bad, but again, with all the injuries that we saw this year, especially with our defense, and if we're moving a bunch of different parts around, it'd be nice to have somebody that we could call back. I think a loan for him would be fine.
I'm torn on this one. My heart tells me sell, because I don't think you're gonna get a higher value on him than you will right now. He didn't have a great loan, but he's still about 23. So he has that potential factor you can factor into the market value. But I also think a change of position would benefit him well. We saw preseason last year where he was probably the best distributor of the ball we had. We're looking for a number 6, and I think he could be an option as a number 6. So I'll say keep for now. Levi Colwill coming off a great loan at Brighton. Keep. Malo Gusto finally joining the club from Lyon, though he is coming back from a major injury, including surgery. Keep, sell, loan? Malo Gusto?
Loan.
I think you have to keep him. This is another guy who I think sky's the limit. And at this point, we've seen this year. You don't necessarily know on a day-to-day basis what you're going to get out of Dave, and it's not for effort or anything like that. It's just his body physically won't let him. Malo Gusto is, I think, the first legitimate right back that we're bringing in who can. He won't challenge in his first year, but down the road could challenge Reece James and push Reece James. So get him in now, have him learn, and see where you go from there. Two more defenders here for you, Matt. Bashir Humphreys was on loan at Paderborn this year, featured for the English U20s in the World Cup here. Coming up on, I believe he's about to turn 20 years old. What do you do with Bashir?
I think you loan him.
Where do you think that? I agree with you. I agree. He needs another loan. Coming out of the German second division with Paderborn, where do you think the next logical spot is for him?
I think keep him home. Again, like the championship. I think if he can prove himself there, then he's going to show that he's ready to move up with the big boys.
Yeah, I think exactly what they did with Ian Maatson would be perfect to go on loan abroad and then come home. Maatson has since had loans at Burnley and Coventry. I think Bashir Humphreys would benefit from that as well into the championship. And then finally, our boy, last defender, Malang Sarr. Matt, what do you do with Malangsar?
I didn't even know he was at Monaco. I actually kind of forgot that he was on the books. So that should kind of tell you all you need to know.
Are you ready to cut him already? Sell already?
I wouldn't say sell. I would say loan, but I need to know like how he's doing on loan. Like I said, I kind of forgot about him. But yeah, I mean, even with Chelsea, he was shaky at best. So I'm hoping that his loan spell has kind of shaped him a little bit better.
Yeah. 13 games for Monaco this year. I haven't been keeping up on him much either. But 13 games over the course of a season doesn't spell great to me.
No.
So yeah, I agree. I think another loan would be in his best interest, and maybe make it a loan with an option to buy.
Yep.
All right. So we ended up cutting quite a few, I would say, defenders. Didn't take a full axe to the squad, but I would say we got enough deadwood out the door. You want to turn? Yeah. You want to turn to the midfield?
Yeah.
All right, going back to numerical order here. First up is going to be Enzo Fernandez. Matt, this should be oh, fuck you. This pod is over.
Fine. Loan. Yes, obviously keep Enzo.
N'Golo Kante is a weird one because his contract is ending, I believe, June 30th, with talks seemingly have stalled again. Matt, you're waving goodbye. Are you just letting him walk?
The last I heard, he was getting that oil money. So it seemed like a lot of things were pretty much done and dusted with that. So I think if he's already looking at that and they're already in talks, even if they have stalled, I still think he's gone. I would say so.
Yeah, if the Saudi thing is to be believed, I think that's best case scenario. You're not going to see Conte in any competition that we play in. That's my worry with Conte, is that he goes to a City or he goes to United, goes to an Arsenal, and features in a select few games, including playing against us. I would love to keep him. I put him on the same level as Dave in terms of importance to this club's history. Saudi money. I can't complain with that. I'll agree with you on this one, Matt.
And the other thing is the injuries. And I mean, you're only going to get him for half a season anyways, and he's not going to be playing every single one of those games anyways. So you're talking to maybe get him for a quarter of the season. So I don't think it's a smart business decision to move forward.
Well, how about another guy who seems to be a little bit controversial in the midfielder, and that's Mateo Kovacic. I know he's your boy.
Yeah, he is.
But what do you think?
I want to keep him. At the same time, I want to sell him so I can actually buy his jersey. But you see, he's tough for me because I think for a while there, him and Enzo were starting to develop a good partnership in that midfield. And with the amount that he played during the season, the World Cup, and then also with the injuries that he had in the second half of the season, like his body was just beating the hell. I think with a full off season, he would be good. Now I know the talks with City are ongoing. I think he would do well there because he wouldn't have to play every single match. But I would like to keep him. But at the same time, we do have a young crop of midfielders that we can start developing and start working on and kind of redevelop that core that we had in years past. So my heart says keep. I'm Head says sell.
Both of mine say sell. I think Kovacic has been bang average for about 2.5 seasons. He can dribble, he can pass, can't shoot worth shit. Defense is, hit or miss. We have that in 19-year-old Carney Chukwuemeka, but he can shoot. So it has been far too long where we have a midfield that can't hit the broadside of a barn with a shot. Yeah, Kovacic is good for the worldie every once in a while, but how many of those are miss hits, right? No, I think like it's a thank you for your service situation, but get the fuck out of here for me. Especially, dude, sell to City. I don't care how he does at City. City's not a real club. They can just give us money. And then we get to develop Carney Chukwuemeka, Lewis Hall, Andre Santos, Cesare Cassette, Omari Hutchinson. Forgot about him for a quick minute there. There's a lot to be developed in this midfield, and he's just kind of taking up space. Man, we're gonna skip this one for now. But Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
Sell.
What was that?
Sell.
Yep, sell. He's already out the door. AC Milan. Bye. So skipping ahead then, Mason Mount, I feel like is an interesting one. Matt's waving bye-bye. This is one where we need Parker on the pod because I feel like he would disagree with us. I like, academy guy, all that, cool. Like it's good to have somebody for the academy guys to look up to. He's a snake. I put him in the same book with Tebow.
Sell. Go to United. Do what you got to do. Don't care.
They can spend 300,000 a week paying him. That's fine. He's not worth that.
Yep.
300,000 to sit behind McTominay and Fred. Applaud to you. All right. Conor Gallagher. On our Lost episode last week, I feel like we talked about this one. Matt, do you keep, sell, or loan Conor Gallagher?
You keep him. I think you have to. He is, for not to make a straight comparison, but he is like a younger N'Golo Kante in the fact that he attacks high. He has a really good motor. He will go in for challenges, things like that. I like it. He's young. I think you have to keep him, and he'll be a good bridge between, I think, kind of like an old guard, new guard type thing. I think he'll be kind of that bridge point. So I say you keep him.
I agree 100%, except my comparison to him or for him is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. He's got the motor. He can play multiple positions. He's not afraid to run at people. And unlike Kovacic, he can shoot a little bit too. So I agree. He's a good bridge piece. He's got Premier League experience, somebody who can, more or less show this younger crop how it's done. And then we reevaluate in a couple of years.
Yep.
All right. Carney Chukwuemeka, I feel like, is an interesting one. Especially with the U20 World Cup drama that happened. Getting held back from the World Cup and then not playing at Chelsea. He got done dirty this year. So what do you do with him next year? Keep, sell, or loan?
Loan. I think that's the only logical thing.
I've seen rumors of an option, loan with option to buy is what a lot of clubs are looking for. Do you include that option or no?
I would say no. Like, give him just a straight up loan, see how he does with consistent playing time. And then you can look at, all right, do we do a loan 2 seasons from now with an option to buy? Do we bring him back? Like, I think it's too early to pull the trigger on a loan with option to buy.
I think he needs first division experience. He played a little bit at Villa when he was there. He played a little bit here. who the fuck were we just talking about? Where I was like, oh, that, going to France or the Netherlands or Portugal. If we can get Chukwuemeka into, a Benfica or a Feyenoord, not necessarily the top team in one of those leagues, but kind of that Europa League zone.
We're talking about
Gaga, thank you. I feel like Carney would thrive, even at a Reims or a Nice. Carney would do well there. It'd be invaluable experience, and then you bring him back to join, Santos, Cassette, Gallagher, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So another young guy that we spent some money on this past summer, went out on loan, kind of did okay. Omari Hutchinson.
I don't know enough about him, so I'm gonna defer.
I think he needs another loan to the championship. He went to the championship this season in January after featuring once for us, I believe, in the FA Cup against Manchester City. Or maybe it was the Carabao Cup. Anyways, featured once for us. Didn't look great. Had a kind of an up and down loan, but he needs another year. He's only 19, same age. He's the same age as Carney. Just needs more experience. He's just not as refined as Carney is. I think he's still going to be a good talent for Chelsea, but he needs consistent playing time. It's now a guy that Matt knows a whole shit ton about, Lewis Hall.
Sign him to a lifetime contract.
Midfielder by trade, left back at Chelsea.
And a hero 24/7. Yeah, keep him. I think he is going to be your number 2 left back to start the season next year.
Yeah, I don't think he is. I think, again, you've got Kukurea and Maatsen ahead of him. I know, you don't know a lot about Maatsen, and Kukurea doesn't pass your eye test, but I think Pochettino, at least for the first half of the season, will go with guys who have consistently played at this level, right? Lewis Hall has not played consistently and he hasn't been with the senior team consistently for 2 years now. And I know he's very, very young. He's a guy who needs consistent playing time, especially if he is a midfielder by trade and we can't get him into the midfield.
Yeah, so, I think it depends on where you play him and what system you play him in, because we've obviously seen that he can play in that left wing back position, which is only for the senior team, because the U23s, he's their number 8. Yeah, I mean, he can. That's the thing. That's what I like about him, is the things that he can do. His defense is actually not bad. Like, it's better than what I expected. He's got a hell of a left foot. He can put in a great ball. He can go damn near box to box for as long as that youthful energy stays with him. I think he's shown that he can play in the Premier League multiple times and at a very respectable level. So for me, I think you keep him. So if you don't loan him, you have to keep him with the senior team. That's the caveat I'll throw in there. If you're not, then yes, send him out on loan.
My concern with keeping him with the senior team is that we don't have those extra 12 matches of Champions League football this year. And Carabao Cup, as we've seen this year, you can draw City in both competitions and get bounced. And there's not going to be the opportunities for him to play. Guys are going to be more well rested this year. Like, you're not going to need to rotate the squad as much. So why not send him out on loan? I think he's another guy who, playing 40 matches in the championship would benefit him tremendously.
So I'll throw out just a hypothetical. I don't disagree with that. Let me throw out a hypothetical. Who is the sacrificial goat if you need to keep 3 left backs? We know Chilwell's injury history. who is going to be the odd man out in that situation between, you have Chills, Kukurea, Matson, and Hall.
It's
If-
Lewis Hall.
Lewis Hall would be that. Okay.
Because I think it's more of like he's played left back as a stopgap kind of deal, like out of necessity. I don't think that's the long-term plan for him. And so I think it's you're going to have 3 left backs already on the squad who have plenty of experience at left back. So why not get the guy experience
It's his natural
playing at a
position.
high level, in the mid.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
All right, a couple more midfielders here for you, Matt. We'll go with just 2 of them because Tammy Bakayoko doesn't count. Cesare Cassette just won the essentially the MVP of the U20 World Cup. Became the first midfielder to win the Golden Ball in that tournament in over 20 years. Got votes for Reading's Player of the Season despite only playing there 6 months. What do you do with Cesare Cassette, Matt?
This is a fun one for me. I know what you're going to say. I have only seen a very small sample size. That small sample size being bits and pieces of the U20 World Cup. And I watched a good portion of the match today. I didn't see a ton out of him for, him being like, the leading goal scorer and for everything that, he even did with Reading and like the U23s he was U23s, right? Like everything he did there. I'd like to see it for 1 more year on loan, but I could see the argument for wanting to keep him if Pochettino agrees with us, and let's be honest, we know he listens. So I think if he is going to use him this year, then keep him. Otherwise, loan. I like the idea of him coming in with this new crop of midfielders that we're going to start developing. I like that idea. I hope that's his plan, but we don't really know right now. So I could see either or.
I think between him and our next option, one of the 2 is going to go on loan. The other will stay with the senior squad. Both have had stellar years, out on loan and playing for their, youth national teams. The other being Andre Santos. I'll spoil that right now. The thing I think sets Cassette apart is that he's already played in England. So I think he understands the English game. He played for Inter's U23s before we signed him there. So he has the continental experience. But he can score. We scored 38 goals in 38 matches in the league last year. And we have no midfielders who just go out there and just, bang away, right? Kind of unafraid to shoot. I think Cassette should get absolutely up until the trade deadline, or not trade deadline, Jesus. The transfer deadline to kind of prove himself to Pochettino, whether that's in training or that's in games. But August 30th, you should get until August 30th with this team. And then maybe you find a loan for him on deadline day.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of these are going to go. Like, give them a shot, see how things are, and then, if you've made your decision already, then fine, right? There's no point in, beating around the bush if you've already got something lined up, or if you don't see them as part of your plans for the upcoming season, that's fine. But I do think we're going to run into scenarios where some of these players are going to be deadline day, loan spells or decisions to keep.
So then turning to Andre Santos, very highly hyped earlier in the year, right? Balled out with the Brazilian U18s, captained the U20s at the U20 World Cup, has already made his Brazilian senior team debut earlier this year. Had a great loan spell at Vasco da Gama, but doesn't have that European experience. Matt, what do you do? Keep, sell, loan. Andre Santos.
Loan. He's what, 16?
I think he's 18.
Loan him. I think you hit it on the head. He doesn't have the European experience. And I think he would have a hard time adjusting that early on at Chelsea, even though he's highly touted. It looks like he's got everything that we want and need, but he's also 18. He's also played, yes, against people slightly older than him, but not a lot of them are like Premier League level players, right? So I think you put him out on loan.
I've asked it of you before. I'll ask it again. What's the ideal destination for Andre Santos?
So for him, I'm thinking somewhere that's gonna be a good transition for him. I would say somewhere in Spain or Portugal, I think would be a good fit for him.
Yeah, Portugal is my thought too. Then again, my thought on it is either him or Cassette will go out on loan, but not both. I'm leaning towards Santos going out on loan, but as you are. I think going to, a Porto, Sporting. I don't think we have a great relationship with Benfica, so I don't think he goes there. But one of those top Portuguese clubs, I think, is great experience. And we've seen with Enzo that coming from Portugal, you can hit the ground running. Coming then to England. So I don't know. Maybe it's something more this summer. Bowley, there's rumors he's going to buy, Portimonense in Portugal. Maybe that's our first loan there.
Yeah.
Oh man, midfield was.
That was a long one.
That was a tough one. So let's finally get into our forwards here. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna really be bringing out the shears here. So let's start with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
Bye. He's gone.
I think it depends how many strikers you bring in. But from everything I've read, and some of the stuff you got to take with a grain of salt, but it seemed to be from multiple sources, multiple decent sources, is that Graham Potter just kind of shut him out. Didn't tell him why. Didn't give any explanation. Barely talked to Aubameyang. It might have been a power move, like, hey, you're Tuchel's guy, but I'm the boss now, like kind of deal. What's the thing about going to prison? You always want to beat up the
toughest guy.
Yeah, maybe it was something like that. I don't know. I give him one more year. I think he has goals in him, and we don't have a lot of depth. And I think we're about to see in this keep sell loan that we're not going to have any forwards on the roster. So I think having somebody with a little bit of experience, even if you're just going to play him as a backup, I think it's worthwhile. So I would say keep. João Felix will skip because that's already done and dusted. He's going back to Atletico. Let's see. Christian Pulisic. Keep sell loan.
The U.S. patriotism in me wants to say keep, but no, I think he needs a change of scenery. So I would say sell.
There were reports coming out this week. I can't remember if it was Simon Phillips or one of those the big sources said Pulisic has absolutely no relationship left with the club hierarchy, with his teammates, and even with the fans. So yeah, time is up. I don't care where he goes, but yeah, get out of here. Mihailo Mudryk, similar position, left winger. Matt, keep, sell, loan.
I'm gonna throw a wrench into this. Loan. Yes, I know he struggled this year. He did great he was at what, Shakhtar?
Yep.
He did great there. But I mean, something just isn't right. Like, I mean, he's missing from Chris Wondolowski range on some of these efforts. I think he just needs a better league than Shakhtar's Ukrainian, right?
Yep.
He needs a better league than that to kind of hone in on some of the things, because yes, he had the huge price tag. He didn't really play a ton, which again, we've talked about that numerous times, where we thought that he should have because nobody else was doing anything. I think a loan with more consistent minutes would help him kind of fine tune some of the things, so some of like the issues that we saw, when he did have an opportunity to perform and do things like that. So as far as where I would put him at, Serie A wouldn't be bad. I don't want to put him in the Bundesliga just because they have too many people like that, and Bundesliga numbers don't always translate well to Premier League. I like kind of the umbrella of a Europa League team. I do kind of like that.
What would you say about, because it just popped in my head here, what would you say about a Villarreal?
Yeah, I think he would do well there.
Playing across from Yermi Pino, like that's a good winger combination right there.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what? I was going to say keep. You might have just sold me on it. I think Mikey's got all the talent in the world. I think he's gonna be something special. I think he's another guy who got done dirty. He hadn't played since October. The Ukrainian league runs over the summer. Obviously, you don't want to mess those Ukrainian winters. So he hadn't played since October, and then you bring him in and you don't play him. Like, it seems weird to me. Like, you don't even let him ramp up. He just doesn't play. I thought Graham Potter managed that terribly. So I guess honestly, it depends on what Pochettino thinks. And it's going to depend on who else we sell here, sell or loan. If we've got no depth whatsoever, you might need to keep them. Back up Raheem Sterling. But if you get an ideal loan, like you said, a Europa League team, I think that's good. That's sitting pretty. So speaking of Raheem Sterling, keep, sell, loan.
Keep. We don't have anybody else. At least by the end of this, we're not going to have anybody else.
Well, and Parker and I had talked about it on an episode that you weren't on. I can't remember which one it was, but his stats this season, he contributed in about 40%. You look at goals and assists, the ratio is like 40% goals assists per game, right? Which is good for a winger. And so I think absolutely he came in and did what at the beginning of the season looked like was expected of him. And it's just because we had a shitty season, we're like, oh, why didn't you score 25 goals? Like, but if you look back in August, I don't think any of us were asking him to score 25 goals. Yeah. So it's kind of just revisionist history. Raheem Sterling is absolutely a keep. Armando Broja, though, coming back from a serious injury with the Albanian national team right before or after the World Cup. I don't remember. Right before.
Or no, he was out like a month or two before, because it wasn't a behind closed doors game.
It was a friendly in like 2 weeks before the World Cup.
Yeah.
All right. So Matt, what are you doing with Broya?
Keep him.
Yeah, I don't know that the injury makes it tough for me. I would like to see him go out and get consistent minutes somewhere like he did at Southampton. Just to kind of build back up. But like I said with Aubameyang, we have no depth at that position, and we haven't for so long.
And once we get further down this list, we're gonna have even less.
I know. Yeah, I guess it has to be a keep. Touche. All right, David Datro Fofana. I'll start with this one because I would like us to hold on to him. I think if Broya goes out on loan, I think Datro's got Datro Fofana's got he's got the speed, he's got the strength. I liked what we saw out of him in the couple games that he featured, but that's the thing. He didn't play in he only played in a couple games. He needs experience. He came from the Norwegian league, something like that. He needs English experience. He needs to get used to the English game. I think you get him either a high League One or a mid-table championship club for a loan.
Yeah, I like that. I would say loan as well. He needs an opportunity to show what he can do in a better league and more consistently than what he got offered at Chelsea. So I'm in agreement. Loan.
Hakim Ziyech out the door.
Yep.
All right. Deuces. See you in Paris. Kai Havertz.
I will pack his bags for Real Madrid whenever he would like me to.
See, that's the thing. I think if he goes to if Real Madrid really want him, Real Madrid are always going to overpay for whoever they buy. So you're going to get good money for him. And he's out of the league, right? He's out of England. So you're going to see him maybe once every other year, something like that, as soon as we're back into Europe. I'm good with him going to Real. I think if that falls through, I'm okay with him staying as long as Poch is playing him in his correct position, that number 10.
On the bench.
Okay. Noni Madueke.
Keep.
Starter. Good. That was an easy one. All right. In terms of other forwards, we got two out on loan now. I want to get your opinion on. Callum Hudson-Odoi.
Sell.
Yes, absolutely. Shat the bed at Leverkusen, and Leverkusen were shit this year. We should have sold when Munich offered 50 mil for him. Yeah.
Yep.
Boy. All right. I think I know the answer to this next one too. I think the ROM redemption tour is over for you, isn't it, Matt?
I don't think it ever started, Collins. That train never left the station, my friend. It's still sitting in Italy.
I would be intrigued to have him back if Aubameyang and Broya and Datro Fofana are gone.
No.
I would be intrigued to see what happens in what will be a meaningless season. But
we just had a meaningless season. So
but I will concede. Sell or loan with option to buy or whatever the fuck you need to do to get him off the books.
So Collins, are you able to pull up a list of incoming transfers? Like a Christian Nkunku?
Yeah, he's the only person missing from
Okay.
this list.
I think to me that softens the blow if you are looking to get rid of Ram and Kai. You have him coming in with Broya, Aubameyang, and if you want to keep Datro Fofana, fine, but then you at least have 3 options.
My only concern with that is that Nkunku isn't a straight number 9.
Right.
He is French João Felix.
Right.
So you still need to
able to do a hell of a lot more than Kyle was.
Yeah,
So-
you need someone to fill that number 9 role. Someone. Anyone. I don't care. Go out and get Peter Crouch out of retirement. Peter?
Or just steal somebody from Inter Miami.
Yeah. What's oh man. Josef plays there. What's Josef Martinez doing?
Yeah. You want to talk about an out and out striker? Oh yeah.
I would take Josef.
Love me some Josef.
All right. Well, that concludes Keep Sell Loan GTH. Not very GTHE, but that's the flag stays down style.
Exactly. So Collins, I'm assuming you're amped up for we really need a name for this segment. What is Collins mad about today? And as we were talking pre-pod, the topic of conversation is Manchester City. Collins, what are you mad about?
I wouldn't call it mad. I will just say the City deserve an asterisk with their Champions League win, as so many English teams love to do to Chelsea with their European triumphs. They had an easy route through the Champions League this year, probably the easiest they've had. They had Sevilla, Dortmund, and Copenhagen in their group. Easy to get out of that group, no problem. And then they go on to play, oh gosh, who did I say they played? Benfica? No, that was Inter.
RB Leipzig.
RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. Real Madrid having a down year. Talks of Carlo Ancelotti getting sacked this year. RB Leipzig is a fraud of a club outside of Nkunku, but I believe he was injured for that tie.
And Gavardia.
Yeah. And then you got Bayern Munich, who fired their coach mid-season because they were underperforming. It was a cakewalk for them to get to the final. And then they play broke boys, Mario and Luigi, Internacional in the final. Big Rom fucking heads the ball into his own player's foot. Or no, I'm sorry, he blocks the header with his foot. That's what it was. They absolutely deserve an asterisk. And I will say this as well, because he was the big key signing for this club. Erling Haaland, fraud, absolute fraud. I'm glad Chelsea didn't go sign him when they had the opportunity to get him for 40 million. Guy can't even score against Chelsea. 12th place Chelsea in 4 appearances against them this year. We held him scoreless in 4 appearances. And then he can't score against these broke boys from Italy either. He's a stat patter. He is the Cal Ripken Jr. of strikers. Longevity. He just played a lot of matches this year. That's why he scored a lot of goals. So I'll put an asterisk next to City because it's all going to get brought back with the Premier League's financial fair play investigations. And I'll put an asterisk next to Erling Haaland breaking the record this year because he couldn't even score against pitiful little Chelsea. So it's all frauds. And Matt, you and I had texted in the group chat. Well, I had texted you. You just kind of sat there and listened. Kai Havertz had a better Champions League final and build up to the Champions League final than Erling Haaland did. Kai Havertz is the GOAT. Erling Haaland, not so much.
I don't have enough time tonight to go through everything. All I will say is I disagree. More specifically with the Haaland thing than anything else. City, they had an easy path, but it's not like they handpicked the path, right? Like it's like it's hard to blame. It's hard to like defend your success because of somebody else's failures, right? Like, yeah, they played against a bunch of teams. They had an easy group draw. They had good teams on paper to go up against, but they were having rough seasons. Sometimes it just happens that way. I don't think it makes them any less deserving. I did think that they were the best team in Europe this season. So I think it's correct that they won. Yeah, that Haaland thing.
Let me give you a list of who he scored multiple goals against this year, because I'm fine. Player scores 1 goal, whatever, assist, something like that. So he had 3 against Crystal Palace, who were in a relegation scrap all season. 3 against Forest. 3 against Manchester United. I'll give you that. That was a decent performance there. 2 against Copenhagen. 2 against Leeds, who got relegated. 3 against Wolves, 5 against the fraud club RB Leipzig, 3 against Burnley, 2 against Southampton, 2 against relegated Leicester. And then, in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matches, he scored 2 goals. I will say it again. Stat patter.
He has a job to do, and that is to put the ball in the back of the net, not to choose the teams that he's playing against. He's doing his job. So for me, it's hard to say that he is a fraud when he sets the record for Premier League goals in a season. It's not his fault that the teams that he scored against weren't good or couldn't defend him. Keep in mind, Chelsea actually did have one of the best defensive records. I believe one of the best defensive records in the league this season. But because we couldn't score a goal to save our life, our goal differential was negative. I want to say we were, I think, top 5 or 6 as far as was it goals conceded, or it was something, but I think like in defense, we were like one of the top 5 clubs in the Premier League when it came to defense. So it was just the fact that we couldn't score. So yeah, I think it just shows a disparity between the good teams and the bad teams. Yes, if he scores against bad teams, okay, it still counts. Right? Like, you can't fault the man for doing his job.
The only 2 teams that he did not score against in the Premier League this year, us and Brentford. And he had 4 shots at us.
Kepa was ready, and so was our defense.
So either he's the fraud or the rest of the league are frauds.
Pick a day, you're going to get a different answer.
All right. Well, Matt, I think that wraps up a pretty solid pod that I did hit record on. So we'll put this one in the books and then reconvene next week, hopefully with some new transfer news as we approach the window opening. So make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to follow us on social media at Flag Down Pod. Matt's not on Twitter, so don't worry about him. Parker is not on the pod for the next couple of weeks. Don't worry about him, but you can follow me at Comiskey North for all your Forward Madison news. Matt, it's been a pleasure, my man. I'll talk to you next week.
Likewise. Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm all potted out.